So we've arrived in Drimmen. Say hi, Agnes.
Hello.
In the double rainbow double wall. And I've pitched up for the first night I'll be spending in the Tarptent Scarp1 Ultra. I won't go into too many details about the specifics of the tent, because if you've got a Scarp 1 or you know about Scarp 1s, you'll know what great tents they are. It's the new material. It's slightly lighter. It's a lot more expensive. It's not Dyneema, essentially. Ultra sailcloth or something. It's rated to be very strong, very waterproof. I've seen some reviews of it already, and they're not very detailed. One of the things I've seen is someone saying that it's not a true 4-season tent because of the inner, the bathtub floor, too thin really, too much mesh. There's probably some mileage in that, to be fair, but if you've had a Scarp 1 or no Scarp 1s, they are a really good tent. If you put the crossing poles on, it gives you a bit more stability. I personally don't think they're needed unless you're dealing with snow. With wind, there's a centre tie out that you can attach a crossing pole up over here and then pin it down, and that lifts the fly a little bit in high winds. Overall, it's a good tent. I'm reserving judgment on the material. It sounds very crisp packety. I've seen some people sort of mentioning concerns about the potential for it being easily punctured. I could see how that could be possible. I mean, silk nylon's easily punctured as well. This potentially is more easily punctured. Time will tell. His hydrostatic head is off the charts. It's got all the usual stuff, the slide in and out floor, so you can make the vestibules bigger or smaller, or the inner bigger or smaller. I've attached skylines to the side. Another thing that, to be honest, it's a bit disappointing that Top 10 don't give you guidelines for the sides. It is quite stable without them, but personally I wouldn't pitch without side guy outs on a single hoop tent. You've got the end vents. Now, one thing I have noticed that I'm not very happy about, to be honest. I've had Scarp 1s before, the standard ones, and the end of the pole goes into like a fabric pocket, and then you tension it down with this. Now, one of the features is that you can loosen this and then pin it up to here or here to raise the sides to give you more ventilation. What I've noticed with this is as soon as you loosen that tensioner off to lift the sides, the pole springs out of the pocket. So the pocket needs to either be made longer or change it for something else, like a plastic cup or something. That I've tried both sides. There's literally no other way of putting it in that pocket. And I've tried on both sides loosening that tension off, and it just springs out, and then the tent collapses. So that's a fail. The door tie out, they're quite weak. It's magnetic. It used to be like a cord lock with a loop, and that was fine. The inner never used to have anything, just 2 bits of elastic that you had to tie a knot in, which I thought was poor. That's now been changed, so you've got a cord lock and a loop, so that's been improved. But the outer, they've changed it to a magnet, and to be honest, I don't think that magnet's strong enough, because there's been a few times now when I pitched it in the garden first to try it out. You roll the door back, if you knock that door, that magnet unclips. And now, if you've got the door open and you're cooking just sat in the vestibule, and you happen to knock that, or the wind catches and it blows the magnet off, and that door drops down, and can very easily hit your stove, and you're going to melt this because it's plastic essentially. So I think that's disappointing. Overall, I mean, they're a great looking tent. The design is a great design, very spacious. Because of these pitch lock corners, it lifts the ends up so the fly's not sitting right down at your face. Or down at your feet on both ends, like you get with, say, like the Telemark, the Laser Compact, things like that. I've tried them, I've had those tents, and they just come far too close to your face. These are higher up on the end, so you don't get that problem. I've got me backpack. What I've done is I've brought the floor in on this side to give me a vestibule, and I've pulled the floor out on this side so I can have my bag in the tent with me. Obviously, if the bag was wet, I'd pull this side in as well and have it sitting outside in the vestibule. The vestibules aren't massive, but they're not tiny either. They're decent. Something like the North Tent Vern 1, the vestibule's twice the size of that. It's an entirely different tent, don't get us wrong, but it's a single pole tent, but very narrow ends, a bit more like the Laser Compact. But that vestibule on the North Tent is something in the region of 70 to 80 centimetres deep, which is just massive. You've got all the room in the world. So yeah, it's a Scarp1. I've had them before. I know the tent. They are a good tent. I didn't bother getting the crossing poles this time. I've got some poles that I can easily make them myself anyway. But basically, this will be the first night spent in it. I'm doing the West Highland Way. We've completed day 1. So I'll be sleeping in it 7 nights. And so it's a decent test. We're going to have some crappy weather through the week, so we'll be able to see what it's like in various conditions. So it's an ideal test, really. So time will tell. But my initial thoughts are, at this point, I think I would rather have had the Sil nylon fly sheet than the Ultra. It just feels better quality. It might be really strong and it might be really durable. I'm dubious about the durability in terms of puncture resistance, but again, time will tell. But it's going to be interesting to see what it's like in high winds with it being very plasticky, whether it makes a lot of noise or whatever. And the puncture resistance, as I say, it's been mentioned by a couple of people who reviewed it, and it is a bit of a concern, and for what you're paying for it as well. You know, because they're not cheap. I'm trying to think what it was. With import duty, it was something like 160 quid, VAT and import on top of the tent, and the tent came in at something just under 600 quid, I think. So it's not a cheap tent by any stretch of the imagination. You're getting towards Hillyberg money. It's plus sides, it's very spacious, it's very easy to pitch, to be fair. First time you put it up might be a bit awkward, but once you've done it a couple of times, it becomes very simple. As I say, there's a lot of room. It's weight, it's I think something like 1200 grams. With the crossing poles it becomes heavier, with the footprint it becomes heavier, obviously. It's slightly lighter than a standard Scarp1. So we'll see. I'll do a few more videos as the week goes on, and I'll be able to give it a full review at the end of the week. And we'll see where it's at. But like I say, that's it, the first one. Keeping open-minded about it, but for an expensive material, it feels cheap. The material feels really cheap. It just feels like one of those blue plastic tarps that you get. I mean, I appreciate it's not. If you look at the material, you get close to it, you can see there's sort of a grid pattern. But instead of just a square grid this way, you've also got an extra one running the other way, so that gives it a bit more strength in all directions. That's the technical part of it. These pitch outs, they feel really weak. I mean, clearly they're not, but they're just the feel of the tent. But yeah, so that's the Tarptent Scarp1 Ultra.